The clatter of weights echoed through the pristine gym as three burly bodybuilders surrounded a lone black man at the bench press. Their loud voices cut through the background chatter. "Hey, this ain't your spot, buddy," one sneered, grabbing the man's weights and tossing them aside like trash. Another laughed cruelly, flexing in the mirror. "Come on, let's see if he even knows how to use real weights." The black man's workout was interrupted, his space invaded. The bullies' voices boomed, attracting unwanted attention, but no one moved. The arrogance on their faces made it clear they thought they owned this place. The black man, mid-30s, respectful and reserved, raised his hands calmly. "Hey man, I'm just trying to finish my set. I wasn't bothering anyone," he said quietly, voice tight with restraint. But his eyes betrayed the embarrassment, the familiar sting of being singled out. He tried to step away, give them space, hoping to avoid conflict. The humiliation hung heavy, his dignity crumbling under their sneers. The tallest bully blocked his path, smirking. "What's wrong? Can't handle a little competition?" Another shoved him lightly off the machine, forcing him to stumble. "Didn't know they let everyone in here," one muttered, lacing the comment with venom. They laughed louder, their cruelty escalating. It wasn't about fitness anymore. It was about control, about showing him he did not belong. The black man clenched his jaw, but said nothing. Around them, other gym-goers averted their eyes. Some glanced up briefly, uncomfortable, but quickly returned to their routines. A few whispered, uneasy, yet frozen. Nobody intervened. No trainers, no management, just silence filling the gaps between laughter and taunts. The bullies fed off it, growing bolder with every ignored second. It was as if the entire gym decided it was easier not to see. In the far corner, Chuck Norris sat on a bench, adjusting a dumbbell. Dressed casually, his expression unreadable, he watched the scene unfold without a word. Eyes sharp, posture relaxed but alert. He was not here to show off. He was not here to interfere. But something shifted in his gaze as the bullies pressed in. Before we proceed, like and subscribe to catch Chuck Norris's epic face-off with racist bullies and comment where you're watching from today. The gym pulsed with intensity beneath its polished surface. It was not just any fitness center. It was an upscale haven where luxury met discipline. Pristine floors gleamed under the overhead lights, reflecting the chrome edges of top-tier equipment. Every machine stood in perfect alignment, as if staged for a commercial. The scent of fresh towels mixed with faint traces of cologne, lingering just beneath the rhythmic clang of weights. Trainers moved briskly, voices low, offering clipped encouragement. The hum of treadmills, steady beats of music, and the occasional burst of laughter created a constant backdrop. Yet behind the shine, there existed an unspoken hierarchy. Regulars flexed and postured, carving invisible territories. Glances exchanged, status assessed. Here, strength was currency, and appearances dictated rank. In the middle of it all, Chuck Norris blended in effortlessly. Dressed in a plain black t-shirt, gray workout pants, and well-worn sneakers, he looked like any other focused gym-goer. He moved with efficiency, wasting no motion, drawing no attention. Sharp eyes scanned the room between sets. Calm, methodical, never distracted. Whether adjusting a weight, stretching, or wiping down equipment, every action was deliberate. His lean, powerful frame spoke volumes without needing theatrics. There was no posturing, no need to prove himself. But something in his calm presence, the controlled intensity in his gaze, kept people at a respectful distance. He was not there to make friends. He was there for purpose, and he missed nothing. A few machines away, a black man maintained his focus on his routine. Early 30s, athletic build, dressed simply, he moved with quiet determination, careful and respectful of the space around him. After each set, he wiped down his station, nodded politely, kept to himself. His eyes remained low, fixed on the task at hand. There was discipline in his movements, not born from ego, but from experience, the kind learned over years of staying composed, avoiding unnecessary attention. He carried himself humbly yet firmly. He was not there to compete. But there was something in his posture, a subtle tension that suggested he understood how quickly control could be taken away. The disruption came in the form of 3 bodybuilders dominating the corner of the gym like they owned it. Loud, cocky, their muscles glistening under the lights. Known regulars, they thrived on the spectacle, feeding off attention. High fives after every set, jokes thrown loudly enough to claim the room. Their laughter was not inclusive. It was a declaration of territory. They barked at staff, left equipment scattered, shot dismissive glances at anyone they deemed beneath them. They were not there to train quietly. They were there to intimidate. Chuck's eyes flicked toward them early on, narrowing ever so slightly as he adjusted his grip on the barbell. It was subtle, barely a shift, but enough. He had seen men like them before, knew exactly how they operated, and he knew without question it was only a matter of time before they crossed the line. The bullies' voices grew louder, spilling across the gym like a bad stench. One of them, a thick-necked man with arms the size of tree trunks, casually walked over to the bench where the black man had just racked his weights. Without asking, he yanked one of the dumbbells off the rack and tossed it aside with a smirk. Didn't know this bench was reserved, he sneered, flexing as if expecting applause. The second bully leaned over the black man's shoulder, voice dripping mockery. "You sure you're in the right place, bro? Looks like you're out of your league." The third blocked the man's path as he tried to move toward another machine. Nah, you gotta earn your spot first." His voice dipped low, adding, "Or maybe you should stick to a different gym, one where they let anyone in." Their laughter echoed, sharp and ugly. The black man stood still, jaw tight, eyes flicking between them, but said nothing. The bullies' energy fed off each other like sharks circling. They shoved another weight off the rack, the metallic clang reverberating as if daring anyone to step in. No one did. Nearby gym-goers shifted awkwardly, casting quick glances before turning back to their routines. Some paused, headphones dangling, eyes flicking to the scene, then away, just as fast. Trainers at the desk exchanged quiet looks, but kept their distance. Nobody wanted to be the one to interrupt. Nobody wanted to get involved. The black man straightened his shoulders, refusing to react. He bent down silently to pick up the weights tossed aside, wiping them down without a word. He kept his gaze low, controlled, determined to de-escalate. Every small action, calm, precise, spoke volumes. He had likely faced worse before, but there was no mistaking the flush rising at his cheeks, the humiliated tension rippling beneath the surface. The tallest bully stepped closer, blocking him again, leaning in with a grin. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue?" His friend barked a laugh. Maybe he doesn't speak gym etiquette. With deliberate slowness, they moved in, cornering him between 2 machines. One jabbed a finger into his chest. "You deaf or just dumb?" The black man exhaled through his nose, keeping his hands down. "Look, I'm just trying to finish my workout. Let me be, man." The words only fueled their arrogance. One bully grabbed the man's towel from a nearby bench, tossing it to the floor like trash. Another gave him a light shove backward, chuckling. "Maybe you're done now." The crowd's discomfort thickened. Whispers flitted between gym-goers. Some exchanged glances. A few lifted phones, but no one stepped forward. It was easier to let it play out, easier not to become part of it. Chuck watched from his station, unmoving. His gaze tracked every shove, every mocking word. Steady, but not indifferent. Then the bullies took it further. The second bully reached out and grabbed the black man's arm as he tried to walk away, spinning him around and pushing him hard into a weight rack. "Don't walk off now. We're just getting started." The third moved to block his exit. Arms crossed, lips curled in a smirk. "Maybe you need to learn some manners." The gym felt smaller suddenly, the sound of clanging weights replaced by a heavy silence. All eyes shifted, watching but unwilling. Chuck stood slowly, folding his towel in one practice motion. He did not speak, did not rush. He took one step forward. The air shifted, subtle but sharp. The bullies didn't notice, but others did. A ripple of murmurs, eyes flicking toward the quiet figure moving toward the confrontation. Controlled, measured, like a predator closing distance. Chuck's eyes never left the bullies. Not a word, not a warning, just one step closer. One of the bullies finally noticed a shadow, standing just a step too close. He turned, sizing Chuck up with a smirk. Recognition flickered across his face, quickly twisting into mockery. "Wait a minute," the bully's voice carried, drawing his friend's attention. He chuckled, nudging one of them. "Ain't this that action movie guy? What's his name? Chuck something." The others followed his gaze, faces lighting up with crude amusement. "Oh yeah, it's him. Didn't know they let Hollywood types in here. Thought you'd be busy filming fight scenes, not playing pretend in a real gym." They exchanged glances, the cockiness in their voices swelling. "Relax, superstar," one quipped, waving Chuck off dismissively. "We're handling things over here. Go back to your little movie sets." Their laughter cut through the gym, sharp and mocking. To them, Chuck was just another actor. Famous, maybe, but harmless. A man used to stunt doubles and cameras. Not real confrontation. They saw no threat. No reason to back down. Chuck didn't react. His gaze remained steady, locked on the bullies without a flicker of emotion. He stood still, hands loose at his sides, posture relaxed, unbothered, not rising to their bait, not giving them the satisfaction of a response. His silence was unnerving, but they were too caught up in their own bravado to notice. Across the room, murmurs began to ripple. It started as a few whispers exchanged between gym-goers now pausing mid-set. Eyes widened, phones discreetly lifted. Someone near the front desk leaned toward a friend, murmuring, "That's Chuck Norris." Recognition spread like wildfire. People began to shift, abandoning treadmills, stepping away from machines. Heads turned, the air thickened. It was no longer just an ugly scene between bullies and a victim. There was a shift, an awareness creeping in that the dynamic had changed. Yet Chuck remained motionless, unfazed by the whispers growing louder. He kept his focus solely on the bullies, his calm more unnerving than any outburst. The tallest bully, sensing the crowd shifting attention but not understanding its weight, decided to up the ante. He took a step closer to Chuck, chest puffed out, smirk widening. "Look, man, I don't care who you are. Movie star or not, this ain't your business." Without warning, he shoved Chuck hard in the shoulder. The room went dead quiet. Even his friends stopped laughing, their grins faltering slightly as they waited for Chuck's reaction. Chuck didn't flinch. He simply straightened his shoulders, eyes narrowing slightly. Not in anger, but focus. No theatrics, no raised voice, just the unmistakable shift, the kind that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. The crowd held its breath. Something was about to snap. The tallest bully's shove lingered in the air, tension razor-sharp. Chuck remained still, unreadable. That silence unsettled everyone except the bullies. With an exchanged glance, they decided to finish it. "Let's show him how it's done," one muttered. Without warning, all three lunged at Chuck simultaneously. One aimed straight for his chest, shoulder lowered like a battering ram. The second swung a thick arm toward Chuck's jaw, confident it would connect. The third circled behind, preparing to grab him in a chokehold, ready to prove dominance in front of the watching crowd. It was chaos. Three heavy bodies converging, fists clenched, smirks confident. Chuck moved like a switch flipped. He sidestepped the first attacker effortlessly, letting the man's momentum carry him forward straight into a weight rack with a loud crash. Before the second could adjust, Chuck caught his wrist mid-swing, twisting sharply. A crack echoed, followed by a sharp grunt of pain. Without pausing, Chuck stepped into the space between them, fluid-controlled. His elbow drove hard into the second bully's ribs. Another brutal impact, air forced from lungs. The third bully lunged from behind, arms out to grab him. Chuck shifted, grabbing a kettlebell off the floor in one smooth motion. With a pivot, he slammed the kettlebell into the man's thigh, sending him sprawling to his knees. No wasted movement, no flashy theatrics, just brutal, precise efficiency. The first bully, scrambling up, charged again, fury now replacing cockiness. Chuck ducked low, grabbed the man's shirt collar, and used his own weight against him, sending him crashing over a bench, dumbbells clattering to the floor. The gym felt frozen. Every bystander stood locked in place, unable to look away. Chuck didn't stop. The second bully staggered back to his feet, cradling his wrist, face twisted in shock. Chuck closed the distance before he could recover. A sharp knee drove into the man's gut, doubling him over. Without hesitation, Chuck grabbed a resistance band hanging nearby, looping it around the man's arm. With a brutal twist, he yanked it tight, forcing the bully down, face first on a mat. The third bully tried to retreat, now backing toward the mirrors, chest heaving. Chuck advanced, eyes locked, expression unreadable. The man swung wildly, desperation kicking in. Chuck caught the punch midair, twisting sharply at the wrist, forcing the bully to his knees. One precise elbow connected with his temple. The man crumpled, dazed, limbs slack. All confidence had drained from the bullies' faces. What started as mockery had spiraled into something entirely out of their control. Chuck's breathing remained steady, barely breaking a sweat. The first bully crawled to his feet, now desperate, blood rushing to his face. He grabbed a metal barbell from the floor, swinging it like a weapon. Chuck sidestepped, hand shooting out to grab the bar mid-swing. With one fluid motion, he yanked it free, spun it low, and swept the bully's legs out from under him. The man crashed down hard, gasping, barbell clattering uselessly beside him. He did not get up. The second bully, still pinned by the resistance band, writhed but could not free himself. The third, dazed and staggering, tried to crawl away, pushing himself toward the exit. Chuck calmly stepped in front of him. Without a word, he grabbed the man by the collar, hauled him up, and delivered one final devastating punch square to the jaw. The bully collapsed, motionless. Silence swallowed the room. The once smug, dominant trio now lay scattered across the gym floor, broken, breathless, defeated. Nobody spoke, no laughter, no taunts. The crowd stared, stunned. Every person in that room had seen the shift, witnessed real strength unfold before them, not in showy flexes or loud voices, but in calm, calculated precision. Chuck adjusted his shirt, gaze sweeping briefly over the fallen bullies. Not a word passed his lips. He stepped back, muscles relaxed, unfazed, as if it had been nothing more than another part of his workout. The bullies groaned quietly on the floor, reduced to shadows of the cocky figures they had been minutes earlier. The gym remained utterly still, every eye locked on Chuck. No one dared break the silence. Chuck stood over the crumpled bodies, his gaze level, unflinching. Without raising his voice, he looked down at the first bully groaning on the floor. "Get up." There was no threat in his tone, just a quiet authority that left no room for argument. The bully struggled to his feet, wobbling, face flushed, eyes darting toward his friends, seeking an escape. Chuck's gaze didn't waver. "Look at him," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear, gesturing toward the black man who stood watching, still catching his breath. "Say it properly." The second and third bullies, bruised and breathless, dragged themselves upright. They glanced around, suddenly aware of the dozens of eyes locked onto them. Phones raised, whispers spreading like wildfire. One of them swallowed hard. We're sorry," he muttered. Chuck shook his head once, sharp. "Look at him. Say it properly." They turned, faces drained of all their earlier bravado, now staring at the black man they had mocked. Voices cracked, words rushed. "We're sorry, man. Shouldn't have disrespected you." The crowd watched, stunned. No bravado left. No smirks. Humiliation complete. The black man, still catching his breath, nodded once, not needing more. He stepped forward, eyes shining slightly, voice quiet. "Thank you," he said softly to Chuck. "I didn't think anyone." He trailed off, emotion flickering briefly across his face. Years of restraint, of keeping composure, suddenly lifted. Chuck gave a simple nod. "No need." Around them, whispers shifted. The gym-goers who had stood frozen minutes earlier now leaned in. Phones capturing every second. Murmurs echoed. "That's really him. Did you see how fast he handled all three? Like nothing." Respect spread through the room. Not loud, not shouted, but palpable. Something unspoken hung there. Everyone knowing they'd witnessed real strength. Chuck didn't wait for applause. He picked up his towel from the bench, slung it casually over his shoulder. No need to look back. No need for validation. Without fanfare, he walked toward the exit, cutting through the crowd like they weren't even there. Heads turned as he passed, but no one dared stop him. The doors slid shut behind him, leaving the stunned Jim in his wake. The gym slowly returned to its routine, but something lingered. A shift no one would forget. What unfolded was not just a fight. It was a lesson. Strength isn't measured by volume, by muscle size, or by how loudly you command attention. It's measured by how you use it. The bullies had mistaken intimidation for power, dominance for respect. But real strength lies in restraint, in knowing when to stand up, not to prove a point, but to protect someone who can't. Chuck Norris didn't need to announce himself. He didn't need the spotlight. He simply acted when others wouldn't. That's what left a lasting impression. Not the punches, but the principle. Because the strongest people don't show off. They protect others without saying a word.